Hello and welcome today to the Proving Grounds as we explore space, and today in Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Taking place before 2, but not before 1, the pre-sequel has to do with space and Handsome Jack. Now, I actually said that I really liked the second game a lot because I felt like the characters were a lot more interesting. Because, well, in Borderlands 1, a lot of characters were fucking flat as hell. So, starring the same characters with a few additional characters, you'd think the pre-sequel would probably be a good game. Well, it's a bit mixed. So the gimmick with the pre-sequel is it takes place on the moon of Pandora, so it takes place in space. So there's a whole space theme. Now, besides Claptrap, all the other characters are humans, so, space would mean oxygen is a requirement, which it is. With a new gear piece that provides a certain amount of oxygen to you on top of your shield net. Your oxygen can be used to give you a double jump to further extend your jump a little bit. You can also do a slam while in the air when you're in zero gravity areas. And, of course, use the oxygen to survive out in space as it slowly fades away. Now, if you run out of oxygen, you'll start dying. Now, Claptrap, interestingly enough, doesn't require oxygen. He was the character I played as when we did our playthrough, so I'm not quite sure how it was playing with a limitation when in the space areas. But it can be a little, because it does this system with space, I mean, you'll find buildings in that or outside of space where gravity is normal, so you don't have all the crazy crap, but in the end you will be spending a lot of time out in space, and this basically was an opportunity for them to try a little different platforming progression with the stages. And in some cases it's okay, but there's moments where you have to do a lot of climbing that can be a little bizarre, like on your progression of figuring out your way to get up, and it can be a little confusing, just a tad bit, just a tad. So you're going to be mixing between going into space and outside areas that have no zero gravity, and on top of that, humanoid enemies are also bound by a similar thing where they have spacesuits, and you can actually break their helmets and cause them to enter a zero oxygen breathing as well. So, just like normal, you're still encouraged to try and get those crits on their heads with your characters. Now, again, you have a new cast of characters, and there were 2 DLCs that added 2 new characters to the roster of the pre-sequel. They all have the play styles. I'm not going to go too crazy into them. One guy has a robot pet that can do things. Claptrap is basically an RNG crazy lunatic. You have a shield tank character. You have the Jack Doppelganger that has minions. Yeah, no, you got a bunch of misfits in that. But the thing I'd say was probably the thing I hated the most about the pre-sequel was the fact that traversing some of the environments was confusing, honestly. There were, especially in the Claptrap DLC, there was a lot of going up and down, and it gets very confusing where the fuck you're going in that. Because the map wasn't really designed in mind traversing up and down so much. That's been mostly a minor thing in most of the games. It's a lot more heavier in this one. I have to also say the drop rate on guns, like interesting guns, was a lot lower in this game. I'm not sure if they adjusted that or if we just had terrible luck. But it probably was something they decided to do since they added a mechanic. See, in the normal games, you have a Winium you collect to get special bonus perks. Since this takes place on the moon where there is no Winium, instead you use moonwalks in that place of that. And that causes the same effect where you can use it to get upgrade perks of ammo carrying limit and such. But on top of that, they added special chests that you can spend, I believe it was 50 moonwalks on to open to get rare drops. So I feel like they were trying to make you do that to get barrel guns, and none of us, I think Dan tried it once, I think, now I think about it, but outside of that, nobody really got those, and we didn't end up with a lot of interesting guns. Actually, the late game, we ended up having a lot less damage output, so some fights became a little problematic. But we did play through full players. Aaron joined us for the pre-sequel, so we did have a full party of people, and I mean, fighting-wise, we didn't have too much trouble except for one particular boss fight that was a spaceship. That thing took, I think, like fucking 40-something minutes. It was ridiculous. Like, I don't know if we did, I still don't know if we did something wrong, because we found critical points on in that, so, but that boss was ridiculously hard, annoying, and we've died tons of times to it. Outside of that, most of the bosses will just fit in most of the norm. Crazy lunatic fuckers, shoot 'em full of holes, and survive another day. When it comes to the story, as I said, this takes place before 2, but after 1, so it's a bit of a middle ground where you get to watch Jack slowly descend into his insanity, where he started off to quote-unquote be a hero and slowly descended into the madness that became him in Borderlands 2. Still thinking he's the hero, but, you know, he obviously descended into madness. What would I say about the story? I'd say 2 was way better. I mean, Jack is still the main show of interest here, in my opinion. I don't really feel like the new characters add much. Also, Claptrap, you thought Claptrap was annoying in 2 and 1? Oh boy, wait until you see him in this one. Like, he tells your mama jokes half the time in this game. It's kind of stupid. Like, I don't know if they just didn't have any original thoughts for Claptrap anymore, but I found him even more annoying in this. I mean, it could be fair, it could be just because you get to play as him, but I think it's more so they just didn't have any real good jokes to go with. I really think that's a problem now. Character-wise, I think Doppelganger Jack was probably the more interesting out of the newer characters. But the story gets told through a flashback-esque system where one of the characters is captured by the OG Vault Hunters, and she's basically telling her story of basically everything that happened. So, while the beginning of the game does take place after it's being the events that you play and they're being told, or before 2, it's just, it's honestly, I'm not a fan of telling a story in a flashback too much. Like, that's really good. Sometimes it can be done right, but a lot of times I feel like it's just a lazy way of doing some storytelling and that. Gun-wise, we did find a few interesting guns, but not too many to really probably be able to really comment on. Like I said, I think throughout our time playthrough, we saw maybe 2 legendaries. Pretty low amount, honestly. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying weighing down from the skies, but I'm just saying hardly. I think we found 2 legendaries and like 3 purples. So overall, we did not find a lot of stuff. Overall, if you're playing with friends, though, I mean, you could do worse. You could do Fallout 76 instead of this. I mean, there's so many worse things you could play with your friends, but by yourself, I didn't really feel like the game was really as astounding as 2 was. 2, I felt like, was a vastly better game in its balance of weapons and things. I just feel like it hoarded too many good things away from you in this one versus the other one. Well, we actually found a few. Of course, like I said, it could have just been bad RNG as well. And then being on the moon, a lot of the environment's also pretty stale and boring. I mean, I know Pandora itself is a wasteland for the most part of that, but I mean, the moon's just pretty blue and dry. Not a lot of interesting environment really in the game to go through. But overall, I mean, if you get the Handsome Collection, I mean, you get both games, so, you're getting an extra game with 2, so you can't really necessarily fault it for that. And of course, if you want the full story, of course, 2 as well on top of that. But I would say you're not missing too much by not playing the pre-sequel, though, honestly, because, I mean, you just see Jack being an asshole, basically, throughout the game. It's not really the most earth-shattering thing to really grasp in any sense. And I could say the end portion did get a bit annoying with some of the enemies, having a lot of bullet sponge enemies. Easter eggs, we found a few silly things, like we actually found one that's like an 8-bit area. It's kind of weird. I think Dan was the one who found it. There's a few Easter eggs, just like normal Borderlands type. I wouldn't say anything too fun in that regard, though. Again, I would just ultimately say 2 is just the better game to get if you're getting a single copy from previous gen. Obviously, if you're getting the newer version, like I said, the Handsome Jack collection comes with it. Like I said, its functions, it's okay. I mean, it's not like it's broken or anything, but it's just, compared to 2, I think 2 was a much better game. And then you got the DLC now. 2 had quite a few different DLCs. Small ones, big ones, small as big as your head, but pre-sequel only has 2, and one of them is a arena game that we didn't even bother with, really, because it was just, it did apparently have a story, but again, it's being told in a flashback-esque style, and it's just an arena thing, so we just kind of passed on it, to be honest. Nobody really wanted to just fight bazillions of waves of enemies and listen to a bunch of people talk to us like we're in the past when we are. But and then you have the Claptrap DLC, which links to Claptrap ending up in the cold wasteland at the beginning of Borderlands 2. Everyone gets digitized and they go inside Claptrap. And you think that would be like, ooh, that could be some grounds for some silliness. And, I mean, depending on your humor, that can be pretty okay to, especially if basically, let's put it this way. If you like Claptrap, you might like the DLC. If you hate Claptrap, oh boy, are you in for some sickening problems. Because it is just Claptrap everywhere, talking to Claptrap with different versions of Claptrap. It's just, And it's probably the worst level layout, too. Well, there were parts in the base game where we got a little lost on where the fuck to go, because going up and down and shit. Claptrap involves a lot of going up and down in his DLC, and it can just be very fucking annoying. There were several spots we were trying to look for the way to progress and shit. It's a mess. It's probably the messiest level area in the pre-sequel, honestly. And it's because it drags a lot of old and new areas and does a lot of all, like, trippy computer cybernetic stuff. It's trying to do a lot of different things. I mean, there are some nice pieces. Some of the pieces that do some of the areas in Pandora and such. Like, I wouldn't say I hated it. Some of the bosses will probably more funner than the base games, to give it some credit. And I did like one instance. I don't want to spoil it. There's one instance near the end that's pretty fucking bizarre that involves Jack himself inside Claptrap. The final boss of the DLC, it's pretty annoying, to be honest. It was pretty damn annoying. Like, the concept of it wasn't necessarily bad, but, like, its execution, I mean, there was 4 of us. Admittedly, we didn't have the greatest guns in the universe, but there was one particular form that really killed the living crap. I'd say the one form that killed us the most was probably the most annoying, because half the time we'd enter the arena and then just get fucking obliterated, not having a fucking chance to even react to it once entering, because it's like mini arenas, you fall into it. You know, most of the arenas you fall in or you get lifted into usually, and this is a fall in. Like, half time you can just die going in, still falling before you even land. It's pretty shitty, to be honest, but after that fight, most of the other forms of the boss ain't as bad. But honestly, I'm not going to say the final boss of Claptrap's DLC is going to win any Game of the Year awards. Honestly, if you're only playing this game by yourself, you're probably not going to enjoy it as much. With friends, I can see a lot more fun, but it was my 2 cents. If you're playing on old gen stuff, I mean, I would get bundled with 2. There was a bundle. I don't know. I don't remember what they called the bundle for the previous gen. But either way, if you want to get this game and you don't have Borderlands 2 yet, just get them bundled together to save yourself time. Because getting them separate, unless it's cheap or is about the only reason. But honestly, it's an inferior game in my opinion. I didn't think it was as fun. And then those other complaints that other people commonly had, because this was made by an Australian branch, and this was the only game they made, to my understanding, I believe. And a lot of people said the humor is very bizarre because of that. Now, I'm not one to judge types of humor or that, but yeah, I do feel the game had a weaker side when it came to a lot of its jokes. I think it came off a lot more cringy than funny most of the time. Whether that had to do with it being made by Australians or not, I don't know. I don't know any of the people who made the game. I just know it was the Australian branch, and I'm pretty sure it was the only game they worked on before closing. And this game was actually supposed to have a third DLC that I think data miners found pieces of, but because they closed their doors, it never came out. And I think overall, generally in the fan base, the pre-sequel is considered weak, or even to the Tales Borderlands game, I believe. So when you got a Telltale game outpacing your game in favoritism, you probably did some pretty wrong at that. But yeah. Either way, like I said, if you got some friends, sure, I could recommend playing it. But by yourself, I think it's too boring of an experience, and probably far too annoying to be by yourself, honestly. It's, like I said, it works. It's not like it's broken. It's just a pretty subpar experience compared to the previous game. I've heard Borderlands 3 is much, much better and much well received compared to the pre-sequel. So next year we'll be looking into Borderlands 3, as we're going to be starting a playthrough of that. And those are my general thoughts of the pre-sequel. It's a game. you can play with your friends that, you know, if you're getting the Handsome Jack, you get separate trophies between two and such if you're into trophy hunting and that. Personally, I'm kind of amazed how many people even, like, the progression of the trophies falls really bad. Like, currently, 61% people get the full story mission of this game, then drops to 42, 36, 29, and just lower and lower. Hell, the final trophy for the base game storyline is 11% people. There was a very hard drop-off in this game compared to the previous entries. So, a lot of people just didn't like it. Like I said, I don't think it's, like, terrible. I just don't feel it's as good as the sequel. Oh, did I mention grenades suck in this game for some reason? There was something dreadful about grenades in this also. Just throw it out there before we end this. I don't know what it is, but the grenades just did not work very well in this. Something about how the gravity works with them and that, they're just bizarre and annoying. I hardly used them myself. But those are my thoughts on Borderlands, the pre-sequel. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. If you feel like you learned anything interesting, please feel free to leave a like. And if you feel like you learned nothing, feel free to leave a dislike, guilt-free. And until next time, maybe we'll have a new, funner thing on the menu. See you out in space, cowboy.
どうだった？私の作った朝ごはん。感想だよ。感想。そうか。